You are not failing because you lack discipline, and you are not failing because you are lazy. Most people believe that if they just had more motivation, more willpower, or better habits, everything would fall into place. But what if the real problem is in you? What if the system you're trying to follow are designed in a way that makes failure almost inevitable? Today, I want to talk to you about something that almost everyone experiences, but very few people understand. Why so many productivity system collapses the moment real life begins, and why the real solution might be simpler than we think. Think about this feeling. You're relaxing one evening, maybe you're scrolling your phone, maybe you're watching something, maybe you're just sitting quietly, and suddenly an idea hits you. Maybe it's a business idea, maybe it's a creative project, maybe it's a plan to improve your life. You imagine the possibilities, you picture the end result, you see what it could become. And for a moment, you feel energized. You want to act, you want to build something, you want to change something, you want to start, but then something else begins to happen. This is what psychologists often call decision paralysis. When there are too many choices, too many possibilities, too many unknowns, the brain chooses the safest option: do nothing. And when this happens repeatedly, we begin to tell ourselves a story. Maybe I'm just not disciplined enough. Maybe other people are better at this. Maybe I'm not the type of person who follows through. But the truth is usually something much simpler. The system we are trying to follow requires too much momentum at the very beginning. Most productivity advice expect us to go from 0 to 100 immediately. Wake up earlier, wake up at 2 a.m., wake up at 3 a.m., exercise every day, lift 100 pounds, squat 200 pounds. The project that you're thinking about, launch it right now, and then make $1 million, make $10 million. The story that's been revolving around your head, write a book about it and publish it today. Build the business, change your life all at once. But the momentum does not work that way. If you're enjoying this video so far, let me quickly introduce myself. Hi, my name is Upfront. I come from a computer science background, and I spend a lot of time thinking about systems, how they work, and how they actually produce results. I'm starting this YouTube channel to share those ideas and break them down in simple, practical way. If that sounds interesting to you and you want to follow along this journey, consider liking and subscribing. It really helps support the channel. Even when we understand that progress requires small steps, we still fall back into the same trap, the trap of trying to catch up. When you feel like you're behind, your brain panics. Instead of focusing on small, rational steps, it tries to close the gap all at once. We tell ourselves something like, I didn't do anything yesterday, so today I need to work 8 hours straight to make up for it. But this is the illusion of catching up. It's one of the fastest ways to destroy your momentum. You can negotiate with friction. If you try to force massive output on a low energy day, the system breaks. You end up doom scrolling, feeling guilty, and restarting the cycle tomorrow. Most productivity systems are designed as if humans were machines. Step 1, 2, 3, 4. But humans don't operate like machines. We operate based on frictions. The more friction something has, the less likely we are to start. And the beginning of any project is full of frictions. Uncertainty, fear, lack of clarity, too many options, too many unknowns. So when the system asks us, start with something big, something complicated, something uncertain, our brain resists. Not because we are lazy, but because the system itself is asking for far more energy than we currently have. So the real shift isn't managing tasks, it's managing momentum. Most productivity systems focus on everything you need to accomplish, but that question immediately creates pressure. Instead of asking, what do I need to finish? Try asking something simpler. What do I want to move forward today? That question lowers the stakes. You're no longer responsible for finishing the entire project. You're only responsible for the next step. So what actually works? The answer is surprisingly simple. Instead of asking, what do I need to accomplish? We ask a different question. What is the smallest possible step I can take right now? Not the whole project, not the entire plan, just the smallest action, something so small that your brain doesn't resist it. Once you focus on moving something forward, the next step becomes obvious. Let's say you want to write a book. If writing an entire chapter feels overwhelming, the step is too large. So you reduce the step. Write the first paragraph. If that feels heavy, reduce it again. Just write one sentence. And something interesting happens once that sentence exists. The friction disappears because the hardest part of any task isn't doing it. The hardest part is starting. Once you start moving, continuing becomes easier. Here's what this looks like in a real day. You sit down at your desk and the project feels overwhelming. Maybe it's a report you need to write, a project you have been postponing, or something creative you've been meaning to start. Your brain immediately jumps to the finished version, the completed report, the finished chapter, and the successful business. And that mental jump is exactly what creates the friction. So instead of asking how to finish the entire thing, you shrink the scope. Open the document, write one sentence, that's it. Most of the time, something interesting happens right after the first sentence. Your brain realizes the task isn't as threatening as it imagined, and suddenly writing the next sentence feels natural, not because you forced discipline, but because motion has already begun. Think about building something with Lego. You don't build the entire structure at once. You start with a single piece, then another, then another. Each piece is small, almost insignificant by itself. But slowly, something begins to take shape. Progress isn't a single massive action. It's a collection of small pieces placed in the right order. Many of us make the mistake of trying to place the entire structure at once, which is impossible. But if we focus on the next small piece, suddenly the process becomes manageable and something interesting begins to happen. Momentum appears. Once you take that first small step, momentum begins to chain together. Opening the document leads to writing a paragraph. Putting on your running shoes leads to stepping outside. Reading one page leads to reading five. Momentum behaves like a chain reaction. One small action triggers the next, and by lowering the barrier to entry so much that failures feels almost ridiculous, you trick your brain into starting. And starting is the only moment that truly matters. This works because the brain is extremely sensitive to perceived efforts. When a task feels large and undefined, the brain treats it like a threat. It delays starting because it expects discomfort. But when the first step is small enough, that threat disappears. Opening a document doesn't feel dangerous. Writing one sentence doesn't feel exhausting. So the brain allows the action to happen. And once the action begins, something powerful takes over: momentum. Momentum is the invisible force behind almost every meaningful project. Not motivation, not enthusiasm, just momentum. Our brains are extremely good at anticipating pain, but they're also very good at responding to momentum. Once we begin moving, continuing becomes easier. So the real trick isn't forcing ourselves to do everything. The trick is designing a system that makes starting easy. Break every task down to the simplest, smallest, meaningful action. Open the document. Write one sentence, sketch one idea, research one concept, send one email, one small step. And once you start, something powerful happens. The brain shifts from resistance to engagement. Large achievements rarely happen because of massive burst of motivation. They happen because someone took the smallest step forward, and then another, and then another. So the next time you feel stuck, don't ask yourself, how do I finish this? Ask yourself something much simpler. What is the smallest step I can take right now? Start there and let the momentum do the rest.